If you are thinking about buying a house in the Villages, or you've already bought your house in the Villages, you're probably going to have to deal with the warranty department. And that's what this video is all about, is my dealing with the warranty department here in the Villages over the last year. We're going to go through all the things that they had to correct, and then we're going to give them a grade at the end of it. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson, and welcome. This is a channel where we talk about a lot of things being retired, a lot of things going on in the Villages. But today we're going to talk about what I went through over the last year with the Villages warranty department. And I'm going to cover kind of like almost all the areas that I had problems with and how I dealt with everything, how I kept records of it, who I dealt with, and whether they actually ever completed them or not. And then at the very end, I'm going to tell you what I think of the whole process over the past year. And well, thanks a lot for subscribing. I really appreciate that, as always. And go ahead and hit the like, give the thumbs up if you like these videos. I'm hoping that this is going to be one video. Sometimes it gets going and I go, okay, this is ridiculous. And we go into two videos. So what I'm going to do is start on some of the things indoors and how I started keeping records and what I think you should do with that. Also, I'm going to run around with a GoPro camera and we're going to kind of light on different things, and I'll show you some of the pictures that I have, the before and what they told me. And I also have some video of stuff, and I guess that's about it. This could get long and drawn out, but as I go along, I'll also tell you about things that may not deal with the warranty department, but kind of like little things that I learned about the house and living here. And let's go ahead and get started by looking at what happened when I first bought the house. Before we get started, I've got to talk about something, and I need to tell you, as I always do, I am not a professional. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not an attorney. I'm just like you guys out there. I just bought a house in the Villages. So as I always say, and I really mean it, don't listen to a word I'm saying, but I'm kind of hoping that by going through the process that I went through over the last year and then giving the warranty department a grade, it may help you out, and you may kind of beat the system, not beat the system, but know about some gotchas and some areas not to tread too heavily in. And so don't treat me as a professional. You got to consult professionals on your own and do what you think is right. So something that's a little bit different that I found out when you buy a home in the Villages is the home inspection type thing. You know, everybody says, get a home inspection done before you purchase a home. Well, when I came to the Villages, I kind of started to see that was a little different. Now, if you haven't seen it, I did a great video with D'Angelo Home Inspections, and I'll put the link up above and down below, but you definitely should go watch that if you haven't watched it, because it has them on there and they go through the whole home inspection and some of the things that they do. And you definitely want to watch that if you get a chance. But I came in and expected to do a home inspection, and right away I kind of found out that most people don't do home inspections right off the bat. So why is that? Now, this is my opinion. I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but they're building these homes and they have a reputation of being, they're not fly by night. In other words, they're not going to be gone in 3 days. They're still building homes. I mean, I think they sold over 4,000 homes last year, new homes. Think about that. So they're here to stay. Also, I got to hand it to, and I call it the family, the Morrises. You know, they have this feeling that comes on down of perfection in certain things. Now, is it perfect? I'm sure, you know, everybody's going to have, this happened to me and this happened to me. I'm just telling you what I think. And it permeates from the top on down. And I think most people realize that they've got a good shake here. In other words, the contractors, I think there's like 5 major builders, contractors here. They know they got it good. They know that they get fed from this system. So they know they have to do a good job. I think that's the whole basis of what I'm about ready to say and why things seem to get done. So I did not have a home inspection done. If you want, you're more than welcome to. I'm sure they won't have a problem with that. But you definitely want to get one done at the end of the year and watch that video and I'll explain why. Now, when I first came to the house, the first thing that happens is you go sign all your papers. But what I did is I came in a few days beforehand with the agent and we went through. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. I just went through the home and I put some blue tape on a bunch of things that I had questions about so that when I got here after signing the papers, I came through and I saw a bunch of stuff that I thought needed to be worked on or looked at, or I had questions so that when I walked through the builder, I wasn't sitting here with her all day. Now, I will say her name. Her name was Missy because she just did an outstanding job. And I keep saying that. I think she's been here 30 some years and the Villages is really lucky to have her. So we went through that and I'm going to flash up a piece of paper right here. And this is something that you get on that first day that you're here. So here it is. Now, don't be afraid of this and heed the warning of 7 days. There is a reason why it is in yellow. Make sure you read that and you get this completed within 7 days. They are fairly strict about this. And the reason is because they feel that you should be able to notice any major things. So make sure you look at your glass, make sure you look at your countertops, and make sure you look at all your tiles and tiling and stuff like that. Think of things that you could break, i.e., you drop a bowling ball onto the tile floor and crack a tile. That's the kind of stuff you want to look for and go over this checklist and make sure you complete it. Now, one thing to remember, things change. This is what I went through. So the checklist may be different, the time frames may be different, but I'm going to go through and show you pretty much exactly what I did. And I thought I was pretty thorough. Now, there are things, if a month afterwards, I'm making something up here, you all of a sudden have water start coming through your roof. That's obviously something that you couldn't have noticed, or all of a sudden all your tiles come loose or your carpet starts buckling on the floor or something like that. That's not the same thing as this checklist, but this checklist is the thing that you need to go through. Now, let me show you what I did. Now, you don't need to get this detailed, but what I did, this is a PDF of what I did, and this will give you an example. I actually took a picture of each one of the things and then wrote down exactly what it is. And we're actually going to go through most of these, and hopefully they'll give you some ideas if you're in that first year, or even some of these things stretch into 2 years and give you some ideas of how to approach this. And most of this was done within the first 7 days, but I took a picture of it, made a description of it, sent it off to the warranty department within that 7 days. And what I found out over this time was that you don't necessarily need to send them all this stuff because they actually just contact the painter and say, hey, there's a chip in somewhere outside. And you usually have to show them once you get there for most of the stuff, no matter how descriptive you get. But on the other hand and you'll see in some of these things when you see some of the water stains in my wall and stuff like that, and I'll explain to you about the tile, of how things can actually become reoccurring and can stretch beyond your first year warranty. So sometimes these things help out. Now, I'm going to start running around with a GoPro camera and we're going to start hitting these things up and show you exactly how they did on a lot of these things. And hopefully it'll give you some ideas and help you with your records. Now, I know you're going to ask, this picture right behind me right here, this was actually taken out my back window, and across over there, that's actually where that lightning bolt is, right over top. Just so I happened to catch that with the palm tree out back and over Bob and Liz's house. So if you've watched some of the videos with them, when that hit, I was like, holy cow. So anyway, let's grab the GoPro camera and jump around with these and see what we come up with. Okay, gonna start in the bathroom here, but I'm gonna show you something really quick because I hope you can see this. But if you look right here, and I'm hoping you can see this, there's like water spots right here. And above this, if you look right in here, there's nothing. It's really clean. So what I had done, and I'll put a video up of this if you want to see it. Let me see if you can see right there. See the difference? Now, what I did is coat this whole thing with Rain-X, and it doesn't keep it from actually getting, having spots on here. But what it does is, all I did is just really easily just wipe this, and all the spots came off. So that was kind of cool. I actually did a video while I was putting it on there. But let's get back to what we were talking about. I told you I'd tell you some of the things I learned while I was here. But as you can see, if we get this in the right way, I can just go like this and it just comes right off. So that's pretty cool. I like that. Now, first area was right in here. You may want to take a look at and make sure that this is not collecting water in there. And I'll show you a video while I'm talking about this. The guy actually came in, and I was kind of nervous about this because I thought maybe it was never going to match, but the guy came in and did a really good job on the tile. And then also was written up, and this is, like I said, where you choose your battles, was this part of the window. D'Angelo noticed, put a level on this. It was actually tilted towards the back side like this. And sorry about the echoing, but you have to sometimes choose your battles. Do I really want to have him take this all the way out? Well, I decided no, and I decided to leave it just the way it was because I didn't want to end up pulling this whole thing out. And sometimes the answer to things is worse than what the problem is. I didn't really see any reason that there was going to be any water that collected up here, so that was that. So when you're in here, make sure your fan, if you want to call it that, actually works. They're not really that good a fan. But I added this in here. You can see again how that just wipes off on the other side with your hand versus squeegeeing it. But I added this. I'll put the link down below. This is a suction cup that goes on here. Now the next thing was, and I'll show you a picture of it, was this area right here. There was a big gap there. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't even notice it. When I was here walking through with Missy goes, oh boy, look at that. And pointed towards that. And I looked at stuff pretty close, and you just walk by these things. So make sure you go back over it. And then the other thing was right up here, these gaps in the molding, and then somebody hadn't gone over and actually filled the little holes in there. Another thing to look at is right here, make sure these all function. I had a couple of these that I noticed after a while that didn't. Also, I'll show you right down here, I noticed on the bottom of there that there was a bunch of chips in there. So make sure you look along the bottom of the cabinets. Now, as far as repairing that stuff, got to give them an A for that. They came right away. Now these cabinets right here, I'll tell you right now, and even the cabinet guy told me that they are just really hard to match, and it's really tough to get the doors and the finishes to match. Same thing out in the kitchen. I'll show you when I get out into the kitchen some things to look for on those cabinets too. But that's about it for in here, and kind of move out to the bedroom right now. On these blinds, it's kind of a love-hate relationship, but on the first set that I had, they didn't go up evenly, so that was kind of a problem. But there really wasn't much else in the bedroom that I needed to go over. There was a, oh yeah, there was. Hang on a second here. Let's go up here. And this is an area you want to look up here. There was actually a gap up there where there was no caulking up there. And actually D'Angelo caught that one. That was one of the things that they caught. Let's go ahead and, oh, I keep forgetting stuff. The fan. So when I moved in, I took and I ran a lot of, I ran the fans constantly to see how they do. Now, I'm not really impressed with these fans. This one that's in my bedroom right now has a hum to it, and I've gone into other people's homes that have bought new fans. There's no hum to them at all, but that's just the way these are. They're not the best. They're builder grade fans. Make sure that all your windows open and close, and that's about it for in the bedroom right here that I can think of. Now, these blinds right here, make sure you do these back and forth. They actually had to come in and replace them. And I'm going to tell you the story behind these. When they came in and replaced them, they had to move this. Now here's something you should listen to. You have to kind of take this with a grain of salt. Is when they originally came in to put them in, they said, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. Then the next guys came in because they weren't closing the whole way and they weren't even. So eventually they came in and replaced them. And when they replaced them, this was at the wrong height. So they kept moving it all around. They ended up putting about 5 or 6 different holes everywhere. And I told them that's unacceptable. And to their credit, they kept coming back until they fixed it. And it just so happens the last guy that was in here knew exactly how to fix it and ended up adjusting the length of the run of this, and everything worked out fine. Now, I guess part of me saying this is if you don't be so anal that you drive them crazy, but if you know something is supposed to be right, then stick to your guns and make them come and fix it. Don't let them keep telling you that, no, it's supposed to be this way. And I'll show you how this really paid off later on. Now, D'Angelo came by, and this is kind of a funny story. Up in this corner, right up here, you don't see anything here, pointed out a bunch of spots. And he wrote it up as paint splattered on the ceiling. But when the painter came, who I will tell you right now, the painter was really good. They were so agreeable to doing things. They touched up things that I would have never even noticed. And most polite, nicest guy in the world. He said, he goes, I think that's blood on your ceiling. And as soon as he said that, I knew exactly what it was from. And he said the exact same thing. Was it a contractor or something hurt themselves or cut themselves and went like this with their hand and ended up splattering blood on there. So a little bit of a weird story, but pretty cool. The other thing too is on the bottom of your windows, make sure you check the weep holes, make sure they function. I poured a little bit of water in there, and that's it for that area. Now I'm going to show you something with electrical. Now I did do a write-up. If you know what one of these is, you can get these for really cheap at Home Depot, or you can get them on the internet. And basically, this just checks your circuits to make sure they're good. I don't know why that wouldn't go in the first time. Also, if you hit this, it'll end up popping the circuit breaker out there. I'll show you when I get out into the garage, but shows you that the circuit's good. And if I walk over here, I'll show you in a second exactly what happened over here, so you don't do the same thing, kind of silly. Right here under the carpet, in the middle of the floor, you have these. I went and tested it with this. Now, the funny thing is is I wrote this up as it's not working. The electrician comes in and goes, "Hey, Rusty, I hate to tell you this, but you actually have to flip the switch." And if you don't know what these little red dots are for on here, the red dots actually control a wall outlet. It just so happens that this red dot on here controlled the floor outlet. All right, we are in the kitchen right now, and I'm going to show you something. This right here, this molding was missing right here. And along this edge, and not most of the edges, but a lot of these edges, it was like rubbed off. So I never even noticed it until I just thought it was a reflection along here, like light reflecting, like if you look, but what it really was, or if you look here, it looks like a reflection. What it really was the paint was rubbed off and the coating underneath was showing through the white. Now, let me tell you something, that this door right here, and you may be able to see it, this door was replaced. And looking at it right now, you can see, if I stick this camera just right, there is a difference in the finish on the two. Now, do you ever notice this when you walk in? No, but the cabinet company and the builder, nice enough, they tried like 4 times to get a cabinet door to match this. Now, you don't notice it unless you point it out, but these cabinets are very hard in this color, especially, to match. So in other words, think of it this way. These are done in some factory, who knows where. And when they build a replacement, it's like getting a different lot number in carpet. You just never seem to get it to match right. The other thing also was the molding right here on the oven. So they actually came in and had to replace, GE came in and replaced the whole door because they just couldn't do that small little area. But for the most part, that's about it. Now, I will tell you that make sure that you look over your countertops and make sure there's no scratches, because what's going to happen if you go past that 7 days and you don't see that, or you don't see any big scratches or dents in your refrigerator or anything else, I'm telling you, it's going to be a hassle. So you want to make sure you get that done and look at those things really quick. Don't blow it off. I'll show you a still picture of this area right here. And when I moved in, I didn't see this. There's watermarks right here. And it's not something that you would see right away, but I'm telling you, walk around your windows, shine a flashlight on areas, make sure there's no watermarks and stuff like that. Now, we assumed we had everybody come in and look at the area. I even had a meter where I measured stuff. But this is what I want to talk to you about this for a second. The reason you want to document these things and take pictures of them, as far as I'm concerned, is that if this, all of a sudden, we get a big storm or something like that, and I'm making stuff up, I don't know what the exact numbers are, 2-3 years down the road, and all of a sudden this whole window floods out right here, and this whole thing starts leaking and everything else, I'm going to go back to the builder and say, look, we had these guys come in and visit. The window guys came in and checked it. It's not the window. It has something to do with the structure in the building. So you want to document these things and make sure that you have something to go back to, not just you saying, well, that was always there. So the painter came in, painted over that, and I made sure I had some good pictures of that. Also, I ended up pulling the refrigerator out, but I'll tell you something that drives me absolutely crazy. is the fact that underneath here is not painted. So it's white under there. Also, if you haven't looked at my video on the lighting up top, go ahead and go look at that. But this was the same thing in this area. They hadn't done the nail holes and stuff like that. But underneath here, I can't see it right now, there were some nails popped out. And when you stuck your hand in there, it actually cut the end of my finger. So make sure you kind of look under things and make sure everything's copacetic under there. Now, what I did was I pulled this panel off of here, and I'll show you this panel. And what I did was, and the cabinet guy told me to do this, I took this panel down to Lowe's and actually had a small little touch-up thing of paint, a test paint thing. And I came back and, they came in and they looked at this color, they copied this color, and I came back and tested it on the cabinets. And I'll tell you what, it was more accurate than the cabinet guy's paint, because the cabinet guy only gets a certain paint from the cabinet company, and it's not really close to this. So you may want to do that, get a little touch-up can of paint from Lowe's. But this, if you look at this, this panel pops off, or I guess you could take a drawer, but this pops off right here underneath the sink. Now, another thing was in here, this shelf was missing. So that was something I didn't notice till actually the last second. The hallway right now, I have the ceramic tiles on the floor. And one of the biggest problems I've had so far on all of these tiles right here, now you can still see there's an ongoing problem right now, which is the reason for documenting everything and keeping a good documentation of what's going on. The grout kept coming up all in between all of these right through this area. And they've had to come back 3 times to fix it. Now, the last time was after the year warranty. So 2 weeks before my year warranty was up, I called them and they came out and they fixed it. And then I called them about a week later and said, hey, it's coming up again. You got to come fix it. The only problem was I wasn't there. I documented everything that I had called them, and they said, okay, that's fine. We'll come back after, when you get back down there, call us when you get back down there. Well, when I called them to come back down here, right away, they said, oh, well, no, you're after your year warranty. You have to call them directly. You can't call the home warranty. Well, the problem is the person that's talking to you is not necessarily the person you're going to talk to 3 weeks later. After long conversations and keeping at it and documented stuff, they said, okay, it's a reoccurring thing. We'll come back down and fix it. So keep your documentation of who you talk to and when you talk to them, and try not to wait till the last minute. But to their credit, they did come back and fix this. Now, this is the last fix on this tile. I left that on there so that you could see it. Also, these doors, I know that looks fine like that, but I have to, thanks to the builder, she came in and said, oh, that's unacceptable, and pointed out, not this one, this has been fixed, but the door was actually warped, and I didn't even notice that there was a big gap in there. So that's kind of a few things right here in the hallway. Once again, kind of learn these little lessons of keeping things documented, because I think it'll kind of help you out down. Let's go outside. A lot in this area. I'm going to tell you what I learned about this HVAC in this area. And the biggest thing is, and I'm going to tell you this goes to It all depends on who comes to your door. Because let me explain to you what the problem is. I'm going to open this up. And on this whole side in here was all sweating. I mean, all condensation up and down here. It was all wet. Every time I went in there, it was wet. The first guy that came out and talked to me said, oh, this is normal in the winter. I mean, in the summer, you know, there's high humidity, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So I went and talked to some other people and kind of pursued this a little bit further. They said, no, it shouldn't be like that. 2 guys later, now this has nothing to do with the home warranty department. This has the people working on the unit. 2 people later, they came back in and the guy knew right what it was. And here is the problems. Now, hopefully you can see down there, there was no seal along the whole bottom of this door. And up in this top corner up here, the seal around there was not good. Also, the seal around the door was not all that great. And the last guy that had come in to fix it had only buckled the one buckle. So this is what happens, is if you don't have a good seal around here, it sucks air in from outside. And this is why you'll see on here, I have closed top and bottom. So whenever you go in here, don't get lazy and not close the bottom and the top. And the minute we did those things, the next day there was absolutely no condensation. Now the thing is you got to be careful, because that's all going to get condensation on the inside too. So make sure you take care of that. Big thing, big deal. Onward. It's going to sound like I'm going through a lot of things, but I'm really not. I'm going to play a little tape for you here. It just so happened I was out in the garage and I hear this. Now, when I was out here, I heard that, and it probably took me about 10 times to get out here and have the thing start up and make that noise, because probably 80% of the time it didn't. But the one guy that came in here to take a look at that, because I had made a recording of the noise, he knew right what it was, opened it up and fixed it in about 10 minutes, and all was taken care of. Now, on to, this right here. You see these doors? These are the doors they went through to try to match to the other cabinet. So I'm telling you, that's one of those things where if it's something small, you may want to think about replacing a door or something like that, or give it a shot and see how close you can get. Sometimes the cure is worse than the medicine. So the other thing was, D'Angelo found behind here, there was some overspray. Now, I would have never found that myself, so that's one of the reasons you have an inspection done at the end of that year, is to catch those things. And I think when you deal with somebody reputable like D'Angelo, watch that video if you haven't watched it, that you'll find that the villages and the warranty department knows they're reputable, and they'll take care of a lot of that stuff. So that was something I would have never noticed. But the thing is, that would come up when you go to sell the house, and if D'Angelo was doing the inspection, they'd make you come back in and pay to fix that. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Out here in the garage, these rails needed to be adjusted. And the chain, remember that chain's brand new, so they kind of stretch out. But the garage company was really good about coming back and adjusting those. First, they had to adjust these, were not set up right. They made a lot of noise, and the garage door vibrated around and stuff, so they came back and fixed that. That was really good. So that was not a problem. And that's about it in the garage. If I can think of anything else, I'll come back and do that. Oh, if you haven't watched the Tailwind video on the automatic garage door opener, as my girlfriend calls it, the James Bond thing that you really don't need. But it's really cool because when I leave, the door knows that I've left and it shuts automatically. And when I'm coming in with either the car or the I call it a go-kart, the golf cart, it will automatically shut the door, and it also works off of Alexa. So watch that video, it's kind of cool. I'm outside right now and taking a look at this area right in here. Now, when I first moved in here, even before I moved in here, I walked out with the actually the agent when I was out here, and then also the builder. And I looked at this right away, and I looked at this grade in here, and that down at that end looked like it was actually higher than it was here. And I knew with the rains and stuff that we get that just was not going to work. Now here's a long story. I'm going to show you what they did and tell you about what I went through. Right away, there was some arguments as to what was going on out here. And I documented it. Now let me show you the water video of the first night that I was here and it started raining, and you're looking at this area right in here. And this was probably only after about 10 minutes worth of rain, and it already started piling up. And one day it actually came all the way along here and down like that. And they started to kind of, when I said something, I kind of started to get some, I don't know, blowback, I'll call it, about what was going on. Now, talking with the builder, Missy, who she should be a politician, I think, but she told me, don't worry, if there's a problem, we're going to take care of it. Now, you as a new homeowner, you're kind of got your shoulders up and you're going, yeah, sure, you're going to take care of it. We went through 2 reiterations or fixings of this thing. And the first one, the landscape guy came in and pulled some stuff out and pulled a little dirt out. And I told them the first time, take as much dirt out as you want, just make sure this water gets away from my house. Now, if you don't know it and you don't know anything about the villas, this area right here, even though it goes back beyond their fence, 5 feet into this actually belongs to me, the homeowner of this house. They do not own that, and they actually have to give you rights to go back that way. So also along this area, there's like a 2.5 foot, something like that, a whole length that goes, and I'll show you that over on the other side here when we show this. But anyway, I'll show you a video of these guys coming to finally fix it. Now, they kind of went overboard, so that's really cool. And we ended up, instead of replacing it with some of the nonsense that was in there, we ended up having to put some gravel and stuff like that, and it seems to have fixed it. So that was a pretty big thing. It's just finally starting to grow in, and now the water comes out this way. And I may do something with it, but the point is that I knew it had to be right. So I didn't want to put any landscaping in here or do anything myself until we got that straightened out. So it's getting a little hot out here. Now, on this side over here, let me show you. There wasn't much going on here. This is just a little piece of sod right there I kept in case I have to replace some of it. On this side, as you can see, this area belongs to this house, my next door neighbor. And then there's this that goes down here. Well, what happened here is the way they had this landscaped was they had this grass stopping right here, and it was up about that much. I can show you a picture of it. And what would happen is the water would back up all the way up to here. Now, that's not right. And then the water would come over the side like this. Now, not the builder, but the landscaper was trying to tell me that that's the way to design homes. And my answer was, not this home. You're not gonna have water piling up against my concrete and his foundation over there. It's just not gonna happen. So they, to their credit, after you keep up with them and you document it, and hopefully during this discussion I can show you some of the pictures that I took to document all that. So that's about it for the irrigation. That was a big thing, but the point of that is you gotta kind of look out for yourself, and if something's not right, you gotta push after it. And I was not gonna let up on that because I want water away from my house. Where I'm from up north, you don't want any water under the foundation. Definitely not it. I'll give you some more information here, but that's the end. Most of the stuff that happened to me, you got the blunt of it. If you stuck around this long, I'll give you a grade here with the warranty department in a second, but let me tell you what to expect as you go through these phases. One, in the beginning, make sure you document stuff. Have a little blue tape thing where you can go put those around all over the place because you will forget if you don't write it down. That 7-day mark is a 7-day mark. Get done the things they tell you to do in 7 days. Most of that consists of things like your countertops. If you have big scrapes in your windows, if there's scratches across your tile floor, if there's a big stain in the carpet, things that think about that you could have done. That's the things they want to hear about in the first 7 days. And I don't blame them because I'm sure there's a lot of people that try to blame it on the contractors or whatever. And it's really not their fault. It's something they did. I totally get that. Document, 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 document. Get ready once you get done that punch list at the end of 7 days because you are going to have a bunch of people showing up at your house if you have a long list. They're all going to try to show up at once. Why do I say that? Because once you give that list, and I tried to document it by email, and then I called them to confirm it. They have 3 days, the contractors, to respond to the warranty department, or actually to respond to you once they get that ticket out to them. Or I believe they actually get fined or something like that. So they definitely have an incentive to contact you, and they will. And a lot of them, if they're in the neighborhood and say they're scheduled for a week from now or something like that, they'll actually call you up and say, hey, Mr. Nelson, I'm in the neighborhood. I'm the painter. Would it be okay if I stop by? So treat them nice. They're the guys out there working to make your house better. And at the end of the year, don't wait till the last minute to do things. Make sure you document stuff because if it's something that's ongoing or is continuing, you want to make sure you have the documentation to show them that because you don't want to run into the same problem I did. And it wasn't a huge problem, was the fact that when I called back about the tile floor, it took me a while to convince them that this was an ongoing problem. But like I said, I had the documentation for it. My overall thoughts on the home, the warranty department here at the Villages. I would say for me, and I know you guys are going to put some stuff down in the comments, and some people probably had some bad experiences. And I hate to say this, but a lot of times too, it's what you're asking them to do is not in the contract. But if you've had a bad experience, say it constructively, put it down below because I'd like to hear about it and some other people like to hear about it. But overall for me, it was almost an A+. And I think that's a pretty good experience considering what I've heard about other builders outside of the Villages. And I hope this helped you out, gave you some ideas. But the biggest thing I can say is document, document, document. Get done your 7-day punch list, any other timing, because things change. It may be 7 days, it may be 10 days with your contract, maybe 30 days. I don't know, but get that stuff done. Follow up on it. And at the year's end, don't wait till the last minute. Schedule your home inspection if you're going to do it that way well before. I did mine 10 months beforehand. I scheduled mine. But I really hope that helped you out. And as always, thank you for subscribing. Please just take a second to hit that like button. And I will either see you down here in the villages or I will see you back here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. And I really hope you enjoy your new home.